Continuing with our reading of Bhagavad-gita as it is. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Chapter 6, beginning with text 31. Sarva bhutastitam yomam bhajat ekattvamastitaha sarvata vartamanopi sayugi maivartate. Such a yogi who engages in the worshipful service of the Supersoul, knowing that I and the Supersoul are one, remains always in me in all circumstances. Purport. A yogi who is practicing meditation on the Supersoul sees within himself the plenary portion of Krishna as Vishnu, with 4 hands holding conch shell, wheel, club, and lotus flower. The yogi should know that Vishnu is not different from Krishna. Krishna in this form of Supersoul is situated in everyone's heart. Furthermore, there is no difference between the innumerable Supersouls present in the innumerable hearts of living entities, nor is there a difference between a Krishna conscious person always engaged in the transcendental loving service of Krishna and a perfect yogi engaged in meditation on the Supersoul. The yogi in Krishna consciousness, even though he may be engaged in various activities while in material existence, remains always situated in Krishna. This is confirmed in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu of Srila Rupa Goswami. Nikila swap vivastasu jivan mukta su uchite. A devotee of the Lord, always acting in Krishna consciousness, is automatically liberated. In the Narada Pancharatra, this is confirmed in this way. Dik kala janavachchine krishne cheto vidaya cha tanmayo babati chipram jivo brahmani yojayet. By concentrating one's attention on the transcendental form of Krishna, who is all-pervading and beyond time and space, one becomes absorbed in thinking of Krishna and then attains the happy state of transcendental association with him. Krishna consciousness is the highest stage of trance in yoga practice. This very understanding that Krishna is present as Paramatma in everyone's heart makes the yogi faultless. The Vedas confirm this inconceivable potency of the Lord as follows. Eka pi san bahuda yo bhabati. Although the Lord is one, he is present in innumerable hearts as many. Similarly, in the Smriti Shastra, it is said, Eka eva paro Vishnu sarva vyapi nasamshayaha aishvaryad rupamekam cha surya vat bahudeyate. Vishnu is one, and yet he is certainly all-pervading. By his inconceivable potency, in spite of his one form, he is present everywhere, as the sun appears in many places at once. So I just wanted to make one comment about that, because that's the last verse in that series of verses. That if a person accomplishes thinking of Krishna while he's doing, at least periodically, not always, but periodically, while he's doing his daily duties, then that is non-different than the yogi who's sitting in a secluded place, like we read in the beginning of the chapter, and concentrating and, focusing his mind and making the Krishna the goal of life. If one does that in Krishna consciousness, as Prabhupada taught us, then that's not different than sitting and meditating on the Supersoul. And as a matter of fact, it's superior, because it's a type of meditation that you can do all the time. Text 32. Atmaupamyena sarvatra samam pashyati Arjuna sukham va yadi va dukham sayugi paramo mataha. He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees true equality of all beings, sees the true equality of all beings in both their happiness and their distress, O Arjuna. Purport. One who is Krishna conscious is a perfect yogi. He is aware of everyone's happiness and distress by dint of his own personal experience. The cause of the distress of a living entity is forgetfulness of his relationship with God. And the cause of happiness is knowing Krishna to be the supreme enjoyer of all the activities of the human being, the proprietor of all lands and planets, and the sincerest friend of all living entities. The perfect yogi knows that the living being, who is conditioned by the modes of material nature, is subjected to the threefold material miseries due to forgetfulness of his relationship with Krishna. And because one in Krishna consciousness is happy, he tries to distribute the knowledge of Krishna everywhere. Since the perfect yogi tries to broadcast the importance of becoming Krishna conscious, he is the best philanthropist in the world, and he is the dearest servitor of the world, Lord. Nachaman manusheshu kaschin me priyakrita maha. In other words, a devotee of the Lord always looks to the welfare of all living entities, and in this way he is factually the friend of everyone. He is the best yogi because he does not desire perfection in yoga for his personal benefit, but tries for others also. He does not envy his fellow living entities. Here is a contrast between a pure devotee of the Lord and a yogi interested only in his personal elevation. The yogi who is withdrawn to a secluded place in order to meditate perfectly may not be as perfect as a devotee who is trying his best to turn every man toward Krishna consciousness. How did, what was her name? The girl that was here last night?
Sarah.
Sarah, that's right. Ah. Did you get my text?
Yes, I did.
Oh, good. We'll talk after? Okay, good. This is Jyoti. Don't mind me. It's getting old. I can't remember. Okay. Yeah, how did she respond to that? Did anybody check, perceive how she received that discussion last night?
I walked with her to the car park. We were both parked over here at Govinda's car park, and she was very pleased.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So.
Good. I just wanted to make sure of that. Arjuna Uvacha Yoyam yogas tvaya prokta samyina madhusudana etasyaham napashyami chanchalatvat stitim stiram. Arjuna said, O Madhusudana, the system of yoga which you have summarized seems impractical and unendurable to me, for the mind is restless and unsteady. Sound familiar? That's how all of us respond to that section of the Gita where we say, no way. So Arjuna's saying the same thing. Purport. The system of mysticism described by Lord Krishna to Arjuna, beginning with the words Shochau Deshe and ending with Yogi Parama, is here being rejected by Arjuna out of a feeling of inability. It is not possible for an ordinary man to leave home and go to a secluded place in the mountains or jungles to practice yoga in this age of Kali. Okay, let's have on 3, a sigh of relief. The present age is characterized by a bitter struggle for life of short duration. People are not serious about self-realization, even by simple, practical means, and what to speak of this difficult yoga system, which regulates the mode of living, the manner of sitting, selection of place, and detachment of the mind from material engagements. As a practical man, Arjuna thought it was impossible to follow this system of yoga even though he was favorably endowed in many ways. He belonged to the royal family and was highly elevated in terms of numerous qualities. He was a great warrior, he had great longevity, and above all, he was the most intimate friend of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. 5,000 years ago, Arjuna had much better facilities than we do now, yet he refused to accept this system of yoga. In fact, we do not find any record in history of his practicing it at any time. Therefore, this system must be considered generally impossible in this age of Kali. Of course, it may be possible for some very few men, but for the people in general, it is an impossible proposal. If this were 5,000 years ago, then what of the present day? Those who are imitating this yoga system in different so-called schools and societies, although complacent, are certainly wasting their time. They are completely in ignorance of the desired goal. Text 34. Chanchalam himanak Krishna pramati balabadridam tasyaham nigraham manye vayor eva sudushkaram. The mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong, O Krishna, and to subdue it, I think, is more difficult than controlling the wind. Purport. The mind is so strong and obstinate that it sometimes overcomes the intelligence, although the mind is supposed to be subservient to the intelligence. For a man in the practical world who has to fight so many opposing elements, it is certainly very difficult to control the mind. Artificially, one may establish a mental equilibrium toward both friend and enemy, but ultimately no worldly man can do so, for this is more difficult than controlling the raging wind. In the Vedic literature, Katha Upanishad, it is said, Atmanam ratitam vidi chariram ratam evacha bodhim tu saratin vidi manak pragrahamevacha indriyani hayan ahur vishayangs teshu gocharan atmendriya mano yuktam bhoktet yahur manishinaha. The individual is the passenger in the car of the material body, and intelligence is the driver. Mind is the driving instrument, and the senses are the horses. The self is thus the enjoyer or sufferer in the association of the mind and senses. So it is understood by great thinkers. Intelligence is supposed to direct the mind, but the mind is so strong and obstinate that it often overcomes even one's own intelligence, as an acute infection may surpass the efficacy of medicine. Such a strong mind is supposed to be controlled by the practice of yoga, but such practice is never practical for a worldly person like Arjuna. And what can we say of modern man? The simile used here is appropriate. One cannot capture the blowing wind, and it is even more difficult to capture the turbulent mind. The easiest way to control the mind, as suggested by Lord Chaitanya, is chanting Hare Krishna, the great mantra for deliverance in all humility. The method prescribed is Savai Mana Krishna Padaravindayo. One must engage one's mind fully in Krishna. Only then will there remain no other engagements to agitate the mind. Text 35. Shri Bhagavan Ubacha Asam Shayam Mahabaho Mano Durnigraham Chalam Abhyasena Tukonteya Vairagyena Chagriyate. Lord Sri Krishna said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to control the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment. Purport. The difficulty of controlling the obstinate mind, as expressed by Arjuna, is accepted by the personality of Godhead. But at the same time, he suggests that by practice and detachment it is possible. What is that practice? In the present age, no one can observe the strict rules and regulations of placing oneself in a sacred place focusing the mind on the supersoul, restraining the senses and mind, observing celibacy, remaining alone, and so on. Okay, on 3. A big sigh of relief. By the practice of Krishna consciousness, however, one engages in 9 types of devotional service to the Lord. The first and foremost such devotional engagements is hearing about Krishna. This is a very powerful transcendental method for purging the mind of all misgivings. The more one hears about Krishna, the more one becomes enlightened and detached from everything that draws the mind away from Krishna. By detaching the mind from activities not devoted to the Lord, one can very easily learn vairagya. Vairagya means detachment from matter and engagement of the mind and spirit. Impersonal spiritual detachment is more difficult than attaching the mind to the activities of Krishna. This is practical, because by hearing about Krishna, one becomes automatically attached to the Supreme Spirit. This attachment is called parishanubhuti, spiritual satisfaction. It is just like the feeling of satisfaction a hungry man has for every morsel of food he eats. The more one eats while hungry, the more one feels satisfaction and strength. Similarly, by discharge of devotional service, one feels transcendental satisfaction as the mind becomes detached from material objectives. It is something like curing a disease by expert treatment and appropriate diet. Hearing of the transcendental activities of Lord Krishna is therefore expert treatment for the mad mind, and eating the foodstuff offered to Krishna is the appropriate diet for the suffering patient. This treatment is the process of Krishna consciousness. Text 36. Asangyatatmana yogo dushprapa iti me matihi vashatmana tuyatata shakyo vaptum upayataha. For one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work. But he whose mind is controlled and who strives by appropriate means is assured of success. That is my opinion. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead declares that one who does not accept the proper treatment to detach the mind from material engagement can hardly achieve success in self-realization. Trying to practice yoga while engaging the mind in material enjoyment is like trying to ignite a fire while pouring water on it. Yoga practice without mental control is a waste of time. Such a show of yoga may be materially lucrative, but it is useless as far as spiritual realization is concerned. Therefore, one must control the mind by engaging it constantly in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Unless one is engaged in Krishna consciousness, he cannot steadily control the mind. A Krishna conscious person easily achieves the result of yoga practice without separate endeavor, but a yoga practitioner cannot achieve success without becoming Krishna conscious. Text 37. Arjuna uvacha ayati shadayopito yoga chalatamanasaha apraptya yoga sangsiddhim kam gitim Krishna gacchati. Arjuna said, O Krishna, what is the destination of the unsuccessful transcendentalist, who in the beginning takes to the process of self-realization with faith, but who later desists due to worldly mindedness, and thus does not attain perfection in mysticism? Purport. The path of self-realization, or mysticism, is described in the Bhagavad-gita. The basic principle of self-realization is knowledge that the living entity is not this material body, but that he is different from it, and that his happiness is in eternal life, bliss, and knowledge. These are transcendental, beyond both body and mind. Self-realization is sought by the path of knowledge, by the path of the eightfold system, or by bhakti yoga. In each of these processes, one has to realize the constitutional position of the living entity, his relationship with God, and the activities whereby he can re-establish the lost link and achieve the highest perfectional stage of Krishna consciousness. Following any of the above-mentioned three methods, one is sure to reach the supreme goal sooner or later. This was asserted by the Lord in the second chapter. Even a little endeavor on the transcendental path offers a great hope for deliverance. Out of these three methods, the path of bhakti yoga is especially suitable for this age because it is the most direct method of God realization. To be doubly assured, Arjuna is asking Lord Krishna to confirm his former statement. One may sincerely accept the path of self-realization, but the process of cultivation of knowledge and the practice of the eightfold yoga system are generally very difficult for this age. Therefore, despite constant endeavor, one may fail for many reasons. First of all, one may not be sufficiently serious about following the process. To pursue the transcendental path is more or less to declare war on the illusory energy. Consequently, whenever a person tries to escape the clutches of the illusory energy, she tries to defeat the practitioner by various allurements. A conditioned soul is already allured by the modes of material energy, and there is every chance of being allured again, even while performing transcendental disciplines. This is called yogach chaliti manasaha, deviation from the transcendental path. Arjuna is inquisitive to know the results of deviation from the path of self-realization. Text 38. Kach chen no vayavi brashtash chinabram ivanashyati apatishto mahabaho vimudo vamanakpati. O mighty armed Krishna, does not such a man who is bewildered from the path of transcendence fall away from both spiritual and material success and perish like a riven cloud with no position in any sphere? Purport. There are two ways to progress. Those who are materialists have no interest in transcendence. Therefore, they are more interested in material advancement by economic development or in promotion to the higher planets by appropriate work. When one takes to the path of transcendence, one has to cease all material activities and sacrifice all forms of all so-called material happiness. If the aspiring transcendentalist fails, then he apparently loses both ways. In other words, he can enjoy neither material happiness nor spiritual success. He has no position. He is like a riven cloud. A cloud in the sky sometimes deviates from the small cloud and joins a big one. But if it cannot join a big one, then it is blown away by the wind and becomes a non-entity in the vast sky. The Brahmanakpati is the path of transcendental realization through knowing oneself to be spiritual in essence, part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, who is manifested as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Lord Sri Krishna is the fullest manifestation of the Absolute Truth, and therefore one who is surrendered to the Supreme Person is a successful transcendentalist. To teach this goal of life through Brahman and Paramatma realization takes many, many births. Bahunan Janmanamante. Therefore, the supermost path of transcendental realization is Bhakti Yoga, or Krishna consciousness, the direct method. Text 39. Etan me sangshiyam Krishna chettum arha shasheshataha tvadanyak sangshayasya chetita na yapit upapadyate. This is my doubt, O Krishna, and I ask you to dispel it completely. But for you, no one is to be found who can destroy this doubt. Purport. Krishna is the perfect knower of past, present, and future. In the beginning of the Bhagavad-gita, The Lord said that all living entities existed individually in the past, they exist now in the present, and they continue to retain individual identity in the future, even after liberation from the material entanglement. So he has already cleared up the question of the future of the individual living entity. Now Arjuna wants to know of the future of the unsuccessful transcendentalist. No one is equal to or above Krishna, and certainly the so-called great sages and philosophers who are at the mercy of material nature cannot equal him. Therefore, the verdict of Krishna is the final and complete answer to all doubts, because he knows past, present, and future perfectly, but no one knows him. Krishna and Krishna-conscious devotees alone can know what is what. Text 40. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Parthanaive Hana Mutra Vinashas Tasya Vidyate Nahi Kalyana Krit Kaschit Durgatim Tatta Gacchati. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Son of Pritha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. Purport. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, Sri Narada Muni instructs Vyasadeva as follows: Jaktva swadharmam chananam bhujam harer bhajan apakvo tapatet tato yadi yatra kvaba bhadram abud amushakim kovarta apto bhajatam swadharmataha. If someone gives up all material prospects and takes complete shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is no loss or degradation in any way. On the other hand, a non-devotee may fully engage in his occupational duties and yet not gain anything. For material prospects, there are many activities, both scriptural and customary. A transcendentalist is supposed to give up all material activities for the sake of spiritual advancement in life, Krishna consciousness. One may argue that by Krishna consciousness one may attain the highest perfection if it is completed, but if one does not attain such a perfectional stage, then he loses both materially and spiritually. It is enjoined in the scriptures that one has to suffer the reaction for not executing prescribed duties. Therefore, one who fails to discharge transcendental activities properly becomes subjected to these reactions. The Bhagavatam assures the unsuccessful transcendentalist that there need be no worries. Even though he may be subjected to the reaction for not perfectly executing prescribed duties, he is still not a loser, because auspicious Krishna consciousness is never forgotten, and one so engaged will continue to be so, even if he is low-born in the next life. On the other hand, one who simply follows strictly the prescribed duties need not necessarily attain auspicious results if he is lacking in Krishna consciousness. The purport may be understood as follows. Humanity may be divided into two sections, namely the regulated and the non-regulated. Those who are engaged simply in bestial sense gratifications without knowledge of their next life or spiritual salvation belong to the non-regulated section. And those who follow the principles of prescribed rules, and those who follow the principles of prescribed duties in the scriptures are classified amongst the regulated section. The non-regulated section, both civilized and non-civilized, educated and non-educated, strong and weak, are full of animal propensities. Their activities are never auspicious because while enjoying the animal propensities of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, they perpetually remain in material existence, which is always miserable. On the other hand, those who are regulated by scriptural injunctions and who thus rise gradually to Krishna consciousness certainly progress in life. Those who are following the path of auspiciousness can be divided into three sections, namely, 1. The followers of scriptural rules and regulations who are enjoying material prosperity. 2. Those who are trying to find ultimate liberation from material existence. And 3. Those who are devotees in Krishna consciousness. Those who are following the rules and regulations of the scriptures for material happiness may be further divided into 2 classes. Those who are fruitive workers and those who desire no fruit for sense gratification. Those who are after fruitive results for sense gratification may be elevated to a higher standard of life, even to the higher planets, but still, because they are not free from material existence, they are not following the truly auspicious path. The only auspicious activities are those which lead one to liberation. Any activity which is not aimed at ultimate self-realization or liberation from the material bodily concept of life is not at all auspicious. Activity in Krishna consciousness is the only auspicious activity, and anyone who voluntarily accepts all bodily discomforts for the sake of making progress on the path of Krishna consciousness can be called a perfect transcendentalist under severe austerity. Excuse me. And because the Eightfold Yoga system is directed toward the ultimate realization of Krishna consciousness, such practice is also auspicious, and no one who is trying his best in this matter need fear degradation. Text 41. Prapya punya kritam lokan ushitva shashwati samaha shuchinam shrimatam gehe yoga brashto bijayate. Translation. The successful yogi, after many, many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people, or into a family of rich aristocracy. Purport. The unsuccessful yogis are divided into 2 classes. One is fallen after very little progress, and one is fallen after long practice of yoga. The yogi who falls after a short period of practice goes to the higher planets, where pious living entities are allowed to enter. After prolonged life there, one is sent back again to this planet to take birth in the family of a righteous Brahmana, Vaishnava, or of aristocratic merchants. The real purpose of yoga practice is to achieve the highest perfection of Krishna consciousness, as explained in the last verse of this chapter. But those who do not persevere to such an extent and who fail because of material allurements are allowed, by the grace of the Lord, to make full utilization of their material propensities. After that, they are given opportunities to live prosperous lives in righteous or aristocratic families. Those who are born in such families may take advantage of the facilities and try to elevate themselves to full Krishna consciousness. Text 42. Atava yoginam eva kule bhavati dhimatam etadi durlabhataram loki janma yadidrisham. Or, if unsuccessful, after long practice of yoga, he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom, certainly such a birth is rare in this world. Purport. Birth in a family of yogis or transcendentalists, those with great wisdom, is praised herein because the child born in such a family receives a spiritual impetus from the very beginning of his life. It is especially the case of the Acharya or Goswami families. Such families are very learned and devoted by tradition and training, and thus they become spiritual masters. In India, there are many such Acharya families, but they have now degenerated due to insufficient education and training. By the grace of the Lord, there are still families that foster transcendentalists generation after generation. It is certainly very fortunate to take birth in such families. Fortunately, both our spiritual master, Om Vishnupad, Sri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, and our humble self had the opportunity to take birth in such families by the grace of the Lord. and both of us were trained in the devotional service of the Lord from the very beginning of our lives. Later on, we met by the order of the Transcendental System. There's a little revelation by Prabhupada of his position and how he could do what he did. Text 43. Tat tritam buddhisam yogam labate paurvadehikam yatate chatato bhuya samsidao kurunandana. On taking such a birth, he revives the divine consciousness of his previous life, and he again tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success, O son of Kuru. Purport. King Bharat, who took his third birth in the family of a good Brahmana, is an example of good birth for the revival of previous transcendental consciousness. King Bharat was the emperor of the world, and since his time, this planet has been known among the demigods as Bharatavarsha. Formerly, it was known as Ilavrita-varsha. The emperor, at an early age, retired for spiritual perfection, but failed to achieve success. In his next life, he took birth in the family of a good Brahmana and was known as Jad Bharat, because he always remained secluded and did not talk to anyone. And later on, he was discovered as the greatest transcendentalist by King Rahugana. From his life, it is understood that transcendental endeavors or the practice of yoga never go in vain. By the grace of the Lord, the transcendentalist gets repeated opportunities for complete perfection in Krishna consciousness. Very interesting how he talks about this planet being known among the demigods as Bharatavarsha. Did you know that on the rupee bills, on the notes, the term Bharatavarsha is there instead of India? Yes. Maybe it's both. Maybe India and Bharatavarsha is there. But if you look closely, you'll see the term Bharatavarsha. Okay, text 44. Purvabhyasena tenaiva hriyate yavisho pisaha hriyate yavisho pisaha jigyasur apiyogasya shabda brahmarti vartate. By virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous birth, or previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles, even without seeking them. Such an inquisitive transcendentalist stands always above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures. Purport. Advanced yogis are not very much attracted to the rituals of the scriptures, but they automatically become attracted to the yoga principles, which can elevate them to complete Krishna consciousness, the highest yoga perfection. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, such disregard of Vedic rituals by the advanced transcendentalists is explained as follows. Oho bhatta chapacho to gariyan yaj jivagre vartate namatubhyam tapas te juhuvur juhuvu sasnurarya Ramanu chur namagrinantijete. O my Lord, persons who chant the holy names of your Lordship are far, far advanced in spiritual life, even if born in families of dog-eaters. Such chanters have undoubtedly performed all kinds of austerities and sacrifices, bathed in all sacred places, and finished all scriptural studies. The famous example of this was presented by Lord Chaitanya, who accepted Thakur Haridas as one of his most important disciples. Although Thakur Haridas happened to take birth in a Muslim family, he was elevated to the post of Namacharya by Lord Chaitanya due to his rigidly attended principle of chanting 300,000 holy names of the Lord daily. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And because he chanted the holy name of the Lord constantly, it is understood that in his previous life he must have passed through all the ritualistic methods of the Vedas, known as Shabda Brahma. Unless, therefore, one is purified, he cannot take to the principles of Krishna consciousness or become engaged and chanting the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna. Text 45. Pratyatnad yatamanastu yogi sangshuddhakil vishaha aneka janma sangsidas tato yati param gatim. And when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contaminations, then ultimately achieving perfection after many, many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. Purport. A person born in a particularly righteous, aristocratic, or sacred family becomes conscious of his favorable condition for executing yoga practice. With determination, therefore, he begins his unfinished task, and thus he completely cleanses himself of all material contaminations. When he is finally free from all contaminations, he attains the supreme perfection, Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is the perfect stage of being freed of all contaminations. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad-gita. Yesham twantagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvanvo mohanir mukta bhajante mam dridavrataha. After many, many births of executing pious activities, when one is completely freed from all contaminations and free from from all illusory dualities, one becomes engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Text 46. Tapaspibhyo diko yogi jnanibhyo pimato dikaha karmibhyash chadiko yogi tasmat yogi bhavarjana. A yogi is greater than the ascetic, greater than the empiricist, and greater than the fruitive worker. Therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances, be a yogi. Purport. When we speak of yoga, we refer to linking our consciousness with the Supreme Absolute Truth. Such a process is named differently by various practitioners in terms of the particular method adopted. When the linking process is predominantly in fruitive activities, it is called karma yoga. When it is predominantly empirical, it is called Dhyana-yoga. And when it is predominantly in a devotional relationship with Krishna, Supreme Lord, it is called Bhakti-yoga. Bhakti-yoga, or Krishna consciousness, is the ultimate perfection of all yogas, as will be explained in the next verse. The Lord has confirmed herein the superiority of yoga, but he has not mentioned that it is better than Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is full spiritual knowledge, and therefore nothing can excel it. Asceticism without self-knowledge is imperfect. Empiric knowledge without surrender to the Supreme Lord is also imperfect. And fruitive work without Krishna consciousness is a waste of time. Therefore, the most highly praised form of yoga performance mentioned here is Bhakti Yoga, and this is still more clearly explained in the next verse. Text 47. Yoginam apisar vesham madgatenan taratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam se me yuktatamo amataha. And of all yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me, he is the most intimately united with me in yoga, and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. Purport. The word bhajate is significant here. Bhajate has its root in the verb bhaj, which is used when there is a need of service. The English word worship cannot be used in the same sense as bhaj. Worship means to adore, or to show respect and honor to the worthy one. But service with love and faith is especially meant for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can avoid worshipping a respectable man or a demigod and may be called discourteous, but one cannot avoid serving the Supreme Lord without being thoroughly condemned. Every living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus every living entity is intended to serve the Supreme Lord by his own constitution. Failing to do this, he falls down. The Bhagavatam confirms this as follows. Ya isham purusham sakshat atma prabhavam ishwaram na bhajantya bhajananti stanad prashtakpatantyadaha. Anyone who does not render service and neglects his duty under the primeval Lord, who is the source of all living entities, will certainly fall down from his constitutional position. In this verse also the word bhajanti is used. Therefore, bhajanti is applicable to the Supreme Lord only, whereas the word worship can be applied to demigods or to any other common living entity. The word avajananti, used in this verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, is also found in the Bhagavad-gita, avajananti ma mudha. Only the fools and rascals deride the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. Such fools take it upon themselves to write commentaries on the Bhagavad-gita without an attitude of service to the Lord. Consequently, they cannot properly distinguish between the word bhajanti and the word worship. The culmination of all kinds of yoga practices lies in bhakti yoga. All other yogas are but means to come to the point of bhakti in bhakti yoga. Yoga actually means bhakti yoga. All other yogas are progressions toward the destination of bhakti yoga. From the beginning of karma yoga to the end of bhakti yoga is a long way to self-realization. Karma yoga, without fruitive results, is the beginning of this path. When karma yoga increases in knowledge and renunciation, the stage is called Dhyana-yoga. When Jnana yoga increases in meditation on the supersoul by different physical processes and the mind is on him, it is called Ashtanga yoga. And when one surpasses the Ashtanga yoga and comes to the point of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, it is called Bhakti yoga, the culmination. Factually, Bhakti yoga is the ultimate goal, but to analyze Bhakti yoga minutely, one has to understand these other yogas. The yogi who is progressive is therefore on the true path of eternal good fortune. One who sticks to a particular point and does not make further progress is called by that particular name, Karma Yogi, Jnana Yogi, or Dhyana Yogi, Raja Yogi, Hatha Yogi, etc. If one is fortunate enough to come to the point of Bhakti Yoga, it is to be understood that he has surpassed all other yogas. Therefore, to become Krishna conscious is the highest stage of yoga. Just as when we speak of Himalayan, we refer to the world's highest mountains, of which the highest peak, Mount Everest, is considered to be the culmination. It is by great fortune that one comes to Krishna consciousness on the path of Bhakti Yoga, to become well situated according to the Vedic direction. The ideal yogi concentrates his attention on Krishna, who is called Shyam Sundar, who is as beautifully colored as a cloud, whose lotus-like face is as effulgent as the sun, whose dress is brilliant with jewels, and whose body is flower garlanded, illuminating all sides by his gorgeous luster, which is called the Brahmajyoti. He incarnates in different forms, such as Rama, Nrsimha, Varaha, and Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he descends like a human being as the son of Mother Yashoda, and he is known as Krishna, Govinda, and Vasudeva. He is the perfect child, husband, friend, and master, and he is full of all opulences and transcendental qualities. If one remains fully conscious of these features of the Lord, he is called the highest yogi. This stage of perfection in yoga can be attained only by Bhakti yoga, as it is confirmed in all Vedic literature. Yant yasya devi para bhaktir yata devi tata guru tasyayate katita yarta prakashante mahatmanaha. Only under those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports of Vedic knowledge automatically revealed. Bhaktir asya bhajanam tad iha mutro padi nairasinya mushtin manak kalpanam Etad eva naishkarmyam. Bhakti means devotional service to the Lord, which is free from desire for material profit, either in this life or in the next. Devoid of such inclinations, one should fully absorb the mind in the Supreme. That is the purpose of Naishkarmya. These are some of the means of performance for bhakti, or Krishna consciousness, the highest perfectional stage of the yoga system. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 6th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad-gita in the matter of Dhyana-yoga. So, these first 6 chapters, along with the chapters 13 through 18, form a protective covering for the middle 6 chapters, chapters 7 through 12. And therefore they are the most confidential chapters, and we're going to begin those chapters tomorrow, if we can figure out what the best time is. I mean, I'm ready to stay here and read all day, but we'll see what we can do. You know, Maharishi Yogi, he translated the Bhagavad-gita, but he only did the first 6 chapters. He didn't enter into the middle 6 chapters, what to speak of. Anyway, because he was trying to convince everyone that this yoga that Arjuna just rejected was the conclusion of spiritual life. Interesting. So, like I said, when I first got here, not everyone was here. I spent 4 hours today with the Apple Care people. 4 hours. Computer madness. Anyway, I'm going to stop early. And but I would like to hear some reflections and some questions or comments or whatever from this illustrious assembly of sages. I mean, you think I'm kidding, but I'm not, because I can see that you guys are serious. You're coming most regular, and this is a sign of advancement in spiritual life. It is a sign that you've done Krishna consciousness to a large extent, as we just read in the 6th chapter, in previous verse. And everybody has this chance to come and listen to this every night, but not many do, and that's the truth. So the persons who are eager to learn about Krishna and come to the point of understanding in truth Krishna, they like to hear about Krishna and they become attached to Krishna. And the more you become attached to Krishna, automatically, without separate endeavor, detachment from anything that will take you away from Krishna appears in the heart.
Yesterday I was moved by this story of the sparrow.
Now this is Sarva, a local saint. He's speaking, so I'm going to repeat what he says because his voice is very soft and gentle, as is he. So, start again.
We read about this.
We read about the sparrow
and whose eggs were stolen.
whose
by the
eggs were
ocean.
stolen by the ocean.
The sparrow had seemed like an impossible task
The sparrow had what seemed like an impossible task of
retrieving her eggs.
retrieving her eggs by,
But she got the mercy of a Vaishnava.
but she got the mercy of a Vaishnava,
Garuda, and
Garuda.
this made all the difference.
And it made all the difference, yes, correct. That is the process. That's the process.
I wanted to say it yesterday, but you talked with that nice.
You wanted to say yesterday when you talked to the nice girl that came,
Yeah.
the new girl that came, Sarah.
I feel like you're like Garuda.
not like Garuda.
We cover our lost Krishna consciousness.
Well, I have to say that was very nice last night. The end, when we explained very, very basics to her, Hare Krishna. And the way she was kind of like receiving it, you could see her mind was changing, you know. And I can tell you another thing, if you don't mind. That is the highest taste that you can get in this world. To be able to explain Krishna consciousness to a new person and see them and bring them into Krishna consciousness and start them growing from the beginning straight in the right way. That's the highest taste. No other taste can compare to that taste. That is the embrace of Lord Chaitanya. And that is Lord Chaitanya's mission, and it was Prabhupada's mission, and therefore he was empowered to do this, and he empowered us to do this. Any one of us who becomes very, very eager to do this, very eager to hear about Krishna and him, and very eager to give that nectar to others. In case you didn't notice, I highly recommend it. What else, Sarva?
The other thing is that Jyoti here, she saw you in Fiji
Oh yeah.
many years ago.
Oh yes.
It must be nice for her to see you again after so long.
Yes, very nice. Nice to see her also after such a long time. We saw each other here quite a few years ago. Must have been at least 10, 15 years ago. Huh?
Not since Fiji. I don't think she's seen you since you were in Fiji.
No, that's not true. I saw her once here. Yeah. When was the last time you were here?
I was here for Gola's wedding.
Huh?
Mom's wedding. Gola's wedding.
Oh.
Mom's wedding.
But no, but before. Like, this was at least 10 years ago.
Australia.
Did you come around that time?
Not 10 years back.
7?
No.
15?
20.
20.
28 years back.
Yeah, now you're coming to it. Now you're coming to it. That's right. 28 would be how many years? What would the year be? What year would that be?
About 28, 29 years back. 1998.
Yeah, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That was when. Because that's when I started coming to visit my mother, you know? And 90, yeah. I started in 97. 97, 98, 99, that was a time when I really started to come. And I saw you then, I remember. Hare Krishna. Because that family is special to us. Your family, brother. Okay, what else?
You're
Yes.
going to give us the time we were going to meet tomorrow.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
we need to discuss this with the boss. You are. So, okay, I'll have my discussion that I was going to have with you open, in open assembly. No secrets in family, right? Right? So, you know, I had this unbelievable day today and yesterday, you know, trying to retrieve a file that got somehow or other deleted from my computer and then deleted from the iCloud. And I had to go through a whole bunch of personalities to get to the top senior advisor in the AppleCare people, and he actually did it, but it's not done yet even. But he put it back in the iCloud where it belonged. But now he's personally bringing it down, not through the ordinary download, but through the Apple system. So until that's there, and it's a very, very big file, 22 gigabytes, very complex file because it has many other programs in it and much data in it. and it was a disaster, because if I can't get it back, whoa, it's pretty bad. So, as a result of that, I just stepped over the line and did too much, and I'm feeling it. So I want to know what I'm expected to do tomorrow in the temple, and when, and how we can fit as much of this for them as possible into that schedule.
The 7 to 9 is going to be like peak, there'll be a lot of people there.
7 to 9.
Yeah, so I would, if,
We should be there at 7 to 9.
yeah, I think devotees should be there 7 to 9 because we are doing, this time we're doing this event with the Hindus of Greater Houston. So they're not doing the annual event, but they are doing it together with us. So we're expecting more than the usual number of people. So I think it's better if we're there to, there'll be so many new people, and it's also a very good opportunity for books to go out. Having said that, the schedule is there, and there's two, in the temple room there's bhajans, and we usually have one class, but now we have got 4 sannyasis. It's
Well,
new.
3, 4 and 1/4. 3 and 1/4. I'm only a quarter yet. I haven't come back to the, you know. I mean, this is about all I can handle in one day. What we're doing.
So I didn't know how you, because I remember when you did that thing with for the Prabhupada Katha, it really wiped you out, and then you're traveling in a few days.
Yes.
I mean, it's tomorrow, then Prabhupada's appearance day.
Then it's Ekadashi.
Then it's Ekadashi.
Then I go.
Then you go, yes.
Yeah.
So, indefinitely.
She's also my doctor, by the way. So I'm also taking medical advice.
So I mean, if the reading, we can, the program in the temple starts at 6 or 6:30. If the reading went from 6 to 7, if it was possible, I have to talk to them and see if it's possible, and I don't know if it's possible for everybody who's here. Then I think that would be.
Is anybody here can't come? I would say 5:30. I'd like to get in a little. If 5:30 is possible. Is it not possible for anybody at 5:30?
5:30.
Okay, so yeah, 5:30. 5:30 to 7.
Tentatively 5:30 to. I will have to see if the schedule can be. We'll have to see, because the kirtan is also lined up there.
Oh.
We have like three guests who are coming in: the district attorney, the Harris County judge, and there's a rabbi. So whenever you have someone, then it takes some time. That also takes time. Introduce them, they speak, and then we honor them. So it's, even though it looks like from 6 to midnight, and then there are announcements and Abhishek and all that. So I would have to.
Where would the reading be?
In the temple room. Yeah, in the temple room. But the guests are honored in the temple room, not in the Gorana hall. So that's.
So can you bring that to a Siddhanta?
You would be bad at that then.
Well, I don't know. I'd like to know what everybody else feels. I'm going to do some pretty intense sadhana tomorrow morning.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, and then I've got this call that's coming back.
Oh no.
Yeah, I have to have one more call with this guy to make sure that this got done, because it's still not on my computer. It's still in the cloud, and he's bringing it onto my computer, and he's going to call me back at what time?
12.
12. Oh, he's going to call me back at 12 or
12 to 1.
12 or 1. So after that, then I'm free.
But I'm a little afraid about your health. If you're going
That
to
makes 2 of us at least,
yeah.
and maybe
And
more.
then, 3 this is 7. And also, I I don't know if you're going to do how you're going to fast. You're going to do a full fast or what? So you know, I mean, we have to take all.
I'm going to
into
see how it
consideration.
goes as the day goes by. I
Okay,
have
that's
never
nice.
not fasted for Ekadasi,
Mhm.
I mean for
Very much,
Janmashtami
yeah.
since, what, 45 years?
If we did 5:30 to 6:30.
But I've made a promise to, especially Haribala
Mhm.
and also to Vedanta Ishwara,
Mm.
that I would err in the side of caution
Caution.
rather than the side of the other side.
Yeah. If we did 5:30 to 6:30, it would not disturb the schedule at all. And also.
How about 5 to 6:30?
That would be fine. But I think that's contingent on you feeling well.
Okay, well, I'll tell you that I'll be here 5 to 6:30. And I'll arrange the other things so it'll be okay.
Okay. And you'd read here or you'd like to read in the temple? Or will that be too much reading in the temple?
Well,
That would be amazing if you did it. Because then it's all not
7
only-
chapter 7, that would be really nice.
Wow, that's good.
And also, you know, there are people there who listen on the internet, probably twice as many.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what,
Mm.
you know, for this kind of reading, it's very hard to do in that atmosphere
Yes.
because, you know, these people, they'll come in and they'll have kids and they'll be running around and they'll be screaming and talking
True.
and no one can concentrate.
Then
Not
you
really
could do it,
concentrate.
okay. Then you could do it here from 5 to
I mean,
6.
we got something going on here. We got something going on. I want to keep it going. I want to get as far into the Gita as possible. I'm leaving on Saturday. That means we've got till Friday. Today's only, what, Monday?
Monday.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 4 days. I can get, I'm going to try to get through that middle 6 chapters. Yeah. That may be difficult, but at least 7, 8, and 9. You know, at least those 3 chapters I want to get through.
Yeah, if you do from 5 to 6:30. you
Okay,
can-
5 to 6:30.
Doesn't this-
Here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's mainly what I wanted to talk to you about, so. Okay, any other questions? 5 o'clock here tomorrow. And the program goes until 12 at midnight when Krishna appears. So if you want to be there for that darshan, it's pretty ecstatic. But that's another thing.
And then the next day is Srila Prabhupada's appearance day, very special day.
Very special day.
So I hope you'll be there to.
I'll be there.
Okay. Starts at 10.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll do the full fast. I don't know if I'll stay up until 12, depending on how I feel.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna be there. I have to spend some time tomorrow editing my offering because I wrote the offering when I was sick, pretty sick, and there's many things I need to tidy up, you know, before I read it out loud to the devotees to Prabhupada, offer it to Prabhupada. Okay then?
All right.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
All of you, thank you.